Well, back tuning into today's video, going to have a look at weather for the next 8 to 10 days in today's video, which will be taking us more or less to the end of June, actually, up to the 29th of June, so virtually up to the end of the month. It's getting quite uncertain as we go through to the end of June. I think we're starting to see signs of a bit of a pattern change trying to emerge, but quite what the pattern change is, whether it's to something more unsettled as we go through to July, is quite uncertain, but I think that's gradually the way models are trending, that things could be turning more unsettled as we move through into the start of July. Of course, I did the update from the Japanese model on Tuesday, the 3-monthly update, and that suggested that July could have a trough of low pressure over the country, so it could be an unsettled month, and that could be where the things are trending in terms of the generic charts right now. We could be starting to see signs of that change to something more unsettled for July. But we'll have a look at all the charts in a moment before I get on with the advertising. Before I get on with the video, I just want to mention the advertising. There's video ads on my pages at GazWeatherVids.com. If you hit play on the video ad, you'll be supporting GazWeatherVids.com. Thanks very much for doing that. So this is the central temperature first of all from Hadley, provisionally for June. Up to the 18th, up to yesterday, we're standing at 15.4, which is an anomaly of around 1.5 degrees above average. That's a 61 to 90 average, an old average that we shouldn't really still be using. But anyway, it's around 1.5 degrees above where we should be. It just continues really what we've seen throughout 2014, which is every month coming in substantially above average. Most months coming out around 2 degrees above average, and June continues that trend. So no sign of anything particularly cool, but certainly as far as this month is concerned, it is going to be, I think, quite easily another above average month. So let's have a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts for the next 8 to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF here on the left as you're looking at it. The GFS is over on the right. 500 millibars is an area in the atmosphere. We've got high pressure, low pressure being moved around by the jet stream, which runs above. As I say, these are the 8 to 10 day means. This will be taking us up towards the end of June, up towards the 29th, and the ECMWF has quite a flat sort of westerly flow establishing as we go through towards the end of June. It's not desperately unsettled, but we've got this trough of low pressure around the south of Greenland, and that will be spawning pieces of energy off it, running through the Atlantic into the British Isles. It's fairly strong jet stream for the time of year. The GFS is a bit different because that's got a ridge of high pressure still. The ridge that we've got at the moment is still out to the west of the country, and winds are generally coming from a north-westerly direction of that, so it's quite cool, but it's probably not as unsettled actually as the ECMWF. I think the ECMWF could bring more rainfall through, particularly to the north and the west, whereas the GFS could be drier, but it is cool, and we've got this trough of low pressure sitting over Scandinavia as well. Neither of them are particularly inspiring, to be honest. Both of them will be rather cool. So a continuation of this nothing type weather that we've been having recently. Not particularly hot, not particularly cold, and not particularly unsettled either, although I think the ECMWF probably is getting more unsettled as we go through to the end of June, and particularly if this trough of low pressure was to start to deepen around Greenland, then it could settle into a properly sort of unsettled pattern. The GFS temperature and precipitation ensemble show that we're going to be running around average in terms of the upper air temperatures. We're a little bit above average right now. They're going to be dipping down over the next day or so, and then they sort of hover around a red line. And, as you know, the red line is where we should be at this time of year. Sometimes they go a little bit below, sometimes they go a little bit above. What you have to keep in mind with this is that because the sun is so strong at this time of year, even when the upper air temperatures go a bit below average, actually it could still be warmer than average down on the surface because of the very long days that we've got now, virtually at the longest day of the year. The sun beating down for 12, 13 hours or more. It does mean that even when the upper air temperatures are a bit cool, it can still be very warm. Just as in winter, actually, going on a bit of a tangent, in winter when the upper air temperatures are a bit above average, it can still be colder than average in certain circumstances. So it would be warmer than this ensemble suggest, but even so, nothing particularly exciting coming up. Certainly no signs of any heat waves particularly, and very gradually the precipitation spikes do come back as we move through the ensemble. So we get little spikes coming through. That's just bringing little sort of weather systems around the top of the high pressure, just sort of niggling at the high pressure at times, bringing showers through. But as we get through towards the end of June into the start of July, which is this period here, the spikes are coming back then into the start of July, perhaps implying that things are turning more unsettled as we go through to July. Having a look at the temperature anomaly for the next week, we're about where we should be, a little bit above average for England and Wales. I say that's despite the upper air temperatures at times being a little bit below average on the ensemble, but it still is quite warm down on the surface. Most of Europe is cool though, and that's because the high pressure sitting just out to the west of the country is allowing the jet stream to dig down through central and eastern parts of Europe, so it's significantly cooler than average really over the next week in terms of the anomaly from France eastwards. The precipitation anomaly showed that we're going to be drier than average. Again, that's because the high pressure sitting just out to the west and the southwest of the country, so the driest anomalies are actually down to the southwest. It's nearer normal to the east and the northeast, but most areas over next week, Thursday the 19th to Friday the 27th of June, coming out a little bit drier, or in terms of the southwest, significantly drier than average. So here's the GFS, the latest update, the 6 o'clock update. This is for Tuesday the 24th of June. First of all, we've got the high pressure out to the west to start next week, bringing down these northerly winds. So that's the reason it's significantly cooler than average in terms of the anomaly for central eastern parts of Europe, because the high pressure is out to the west, the low pressure is off to the east and the northeast, and of course the jet stream sort of digging down around that. So the cool air comes down through central and eastern Europe. We're just close enough to this ridge to keep it warmish, particularly if you get decent amounts of sunshine, but always cooler of course and cloudier in the north and the northeast. As we run through the GFS, we do find the high pressure sort of sticking around through the course of next week, so we go through to Thursday the 26th, high pressure beginning to strengthen actually across central and north parts of Scotland. There is a lot of inter-run uncertainty about next week as well. I've been doing updates for Glastonbury, and whilst the overall trend has always been for drier conditions, the actual pattern is deviating quite a lot from model to model, and in terms of the GFS, which updates 4 times a day from run to run. It's quite interesting that there is this sort of flip-flopping around going on with models as to exactly what's happening as we go through to the latter stages of next week. That could be indicative of the start of the pattern change for the very end of June and into July. Very often when you've got a change in a pattern coming along, the models do flip around quite a bit, and there's a lot of inter-run and inter-model variation. That's what we're seeing at the moment for the end of June and the start of July, and could well be that's because the pattern is beginning to change. But on this particular run of the GFS, the high pressure sticks around as we go through to the end of this week, so going out to Sunday the 29th, day 10. High pressure is more or less in control, although low pressure is trying to attack from the south. That could be bringing some heavy rain and thunderstorms into southwestern parts of the country where they don't want it. Of course, down at Glastonbury. The east-central Earth is more changeable for next week. We saw it on the height anomaly chart. The high pressure sort of loses its influence through next week, so it is sort of around to start next week, but as we go through to the middle of next week, it gradually declines. We bring these weather systems through, possibly bringing some quite heavy rain through the middle of next week. And then we settle in sort of a flat westerly flow. I showed you this on the height anomaly chart, bringing in westerlies, got high pressure around the Azores, low pressure to the south of Greenland. The westerlies are coming through. It probably brings some rain up to the northwest of the country, but driest weather probably down in the south and southeast. So that's probably not too bad for the folks down at Glastonbury. But as I say, it's very uncertain exactly how things are evolving by the very end of the month. And I think that's because very gradually we are seeing these signs that things are going to turn more unsettled for the very end of June, and probably as we go through into July, or at least into the start of July. So not great confidence in the outlook. I think certainly to the start of next week, high pressure is going to be dominating, but quite how much that high pressure starts to decline, quite how unsettled it gets later next week, and then going on to the start of July, quite uncertain. But I think that's possibly where things are trending, with a more unsettled spell looking quite likely as we get through to early July. It'll be interesting how it all pans out. We've got the monthly update from the Japanese model tomorrow, so it'll be interesting to have a look at that. Also, we'll have a look at the Beijing Climate Centre and perhaps the CFS model as well. So a bit of a longer range update for July tomorrow. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching.